Hi, everyone. Thank you so much and welcome back. Always lovely to connect with you. Today, I want to dive right in and I want to talk about working with and managing team members who are mentally ill. It's not an exciting conversation that most people are eager to have, but it's a real conversation we need to have. Why? Because 19% of folks living in America will experience some form of mental illness in their lifetime. And of that 19%, 5% will experience a serious, a very serious mental illness. And a scarier statistic is only one in four of those individuals will be upfront with their employer or with key team members they're working with about the mental illness that they are battling. The vast majority will, you'll see something I call the spillover effect in the workplace. You will see behaviors that may make you scratch your head. You will see poor performance. You may see erratic behavior. Sometimes you'll see someone totally disengaged. A person who's clinically depressed, it would not be uncommon for them to actually miss 27 days of work just because they're battling that clinical depression. And most of them aren't going to be upfront with that. They're going to say, oh, I have an issue with my plumbing, or this or that happened with my children. So it's a profound issue, and it is costing this country over $300 billion a year. That's the price tag of not having this conversation. So I want to share with you just some tidbits. What I'm going to share with you is part of a larger program that I deliver around the country. But I really want you to have this key information. So right out of the gate, I'm going to put up this visual. It's called Johari's window, and there's four specific window panes that all of us, whether you're dealing with mental illness or not, operate out of in our lifetime. And there's one window pane that's called the blind spot, and basically that blind spot has to do with what other people are able to observe about you and you can't see about yourself. So you could imagine someone who's suffering from mental illness. They are not connected. They're not connected to that blind spot or the mental illness, or more importantly, how other people in their environment are receiving them. What is the experience that other people are having with them? That's part of what mental illness does. It takes people out of awareness. We're not concerned with the folks who may be anxious or depressed, but they've made it their business to gain tools. They have a plan of management. Many of those people, you may never even know that they've suffered, or they're suffering because they are actively managing their mental health issue. We're talking about the folks who are disconnected. They are detached. They are outside of awareness. This is where you will see things that can be very troubling and disturbing inside of a workplace and can wreak havoc. I have seen one employee with mental health issues. I have seen lawsuits result. I have seen people fired. I have seen team morale literally just go in the tank, because if this is not handled and managed properly, if it's not managed properly, what you're going to have is a domino effect that can quickly spiral out of control. I want to share an example with you, and then I want to go step by step and give you some key things to keep in mind as you are working with these individuals and really trying to keep your workplace elevated, safe, lifted, and keep everyone into those high levels of productivity, which is really required to keep a business viable these days. Let me share an example with you. There was a woman in her late 30s. She was unmedicated, out of awareness, had rapid cycling bipolar disorder, and in one of her manic phases, she went out. she met a guy, lived out of state, was taking a lot of time out of work, flying back and forth to see him, ended up eating up most of her time, was very resentful with her manager and HR, feeling it was so unfair. Then, started saying, I've got this going on with my family, I'm ill. Ultimately, the truth came out, and it was a very messy situation that did not have to happen, and I'll tell you why. Because well before the occurrence and her eating up her time, within the span of a month and a half, her time off, the days she had on reserve, many people in that organization, team members, leaders, had observed erratic behavior that she most certainly would have been appropriate to have a one-on-one check-in conversation. This is where people can often become overwhelmed with the situation. Sometimes there may be some intimidation on the situation, depending on your lack of confidence, levels of comfort, and what I call engaging in those critical exchanges, those critical conversations. So I want to give you a few tips and suggestions on when it's appropriate to have that conversation, and some strategy on how to do that most effectively. So going back to Johari window, I'm keeping in mind that a majority of the time you will probably be sitting down with someone who's not fully connected to the impact of their behavior. They may not even be connected to the reality that they're dealing with some mental illness. So very important to clearly separate the person. People they can get really sensitive, take things personally very quickly. Separating out the person from the behavior that you're observing, and secondarily giving them an opportunity, and it may be the first opportunity ever they've had in safe space for them to observe their behavior. A lot of times when people see what they're doing and the experience that other people are having, that's the aha moment. So how do you do that? It's not about sitting someone down. Look, you're doing X, Y, Z. It's a problem here. It's really about, give you an example. Linda, I'm so glad that we could sit down today. Definitely value the work that you're doing here. I want you to know that out of the gate. But I want to take some time respectfully to check out some perceptions that I'm having of some things I've seen. I want to check out those perceptions with you, and I want to get your feedback. I really want to create a space here for an exchange between the two of us. And so you set the parameters, make sure that you're able to share uninterrupted, that they know you're going to have an opportunity to speak and share uninterrupted as well. And this is the most critical part. If you need to take notes before you have this conversation, do so, because you really want to have concrete and specific examples for them. You kind of want to paint a picture while they're quiet. You want to paint a picture of what you have observed, what other team members have observed, and give them an opportunity not just to hear you, but to share. And make sure that they've heard what you said. And generally, how I've done that in the past is, I know I've shared a lot. I just want to check in and make sure we're on the same page. How did you hear? How did you hear what I just said? And a lot of times you'll get a pause because they're playing this back in their mind. Oh, well, I just heard you say that I've missed X amount of days and I've come in late and I've been very angry and very short. So checking for that understanding is really checking for that understanding again is really key in this exchange. Another piece of advice that I want to give you is again 80% 80% of folks, when they have intervention and they get support and get some tools, they will do better. They will perform better in the workplace because they have a tool. They have some tools to support them. There are some that piece of awareness is just not going to click in. It is so important that you do your due diligence in terms of documenting what you've seen, making a record of what you've seen, also letting them know that it has been documented, laying out key steps, what you want to see, not what you want, what you need to see in terms of improvement is a key. Don't make this personal to you. This is where the policies, the procedures, and the organization, it really becomes your best friend. Really going back to, our agreement, our working agreement is that you will come, and during the time you're here, you will be professional. You will have a certain level of productivity. And in exchange for that, there's certain benefits and a paycheck that you get. So we're working inside of a living, breathing agreement. Always come back to the policies and procedures. In your handbook, we clearly talk about upfront. You have 15 days to use that are set aside, or this is the mandate. This is why it's so important that everyone is on time. Again, you don't want to personalize this. You want to continuously go back into the policies. It's also very appropriate if there's not an EAP available where you are, it is very appropriate to refer. Sounds like you have a lot of stressful things going to have you thought about sitting down with someone. Those resources are available. Sometimes it may seem like common sense, but again, if someone is not connected to their mental illness, their mental health, perhaps they haven't even really thought about, a resource, a help professional may be very beneficial for me. So that is a key step. And also holding him or her accountable. Holding him or her accountable. This is the whole purpose of sitting down and managing assisting them to support them in managing the behavior you're seeing. That is a higher level accountability measure, because what we turn away from, it often gets worse. Again, back to that analogy of cleaning out the bottom of your refrigerator. You turn away from it, 2 months later, you come back and it's worse. So making sure that the next steps are laid out. I'd love to connect with you again in a week or so, and I would like to see that you have put some resources in place to support you in what you're going through. And I would definitely insist on seeing the plan on paper. So these are just some things to think about. People are dealing with ADHD. That's 3% of folks in the workplace, depression, what have you. So it is critical to be able to give those folks, hold up a mirror to them, keep them accountable, because ultimately at the end of the day, yes, compassion, support, empathy, but the workplace is designed to push forth the mission and collective vision of the organization. So at the end of the day, part of that is doing the due diligence to put a spotlight on an individual in a supportive way when they are dealing with mental health, mental illness circumstances. So thank you so much. I will be coming back at you with some more quality content. It's been Sheila Robinson Kiss with Rebalancing America and Beyond.